What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Sean Strickland says Khamzat is ruining middleweight division. As Sean Strickland's next UFC fight approaches in just under 2 weeks, it looks like he's already starting to take shots at the middleweight champion, Khamzat Chimaev. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to help support the channel. Strickland was recently interviewed by ESPN, where he went off on Khamzat for being inactive and holding up the division. Strickland said that there's no point in waiting for a title shot because Khamzat sits out for nearly a year after every fight, since he doesn't need the money. Strickland also called him out for always using injuries as an excuse.
It's kind of weird what the UFC did with Chimaev. You brought a guy in that fights once a year who's like Madonna, who probably gets like, how much money does that dictator give him on the table? Like, the guy doesn't need a fight, dude. He's just gonna sit on that belt and wait until they force him to fight. But yeah, no, the middleweight division, man, like from a pure money perspective, you would make more money not fighting for the belt than you would fighting for the belt. Every fight, dude, the guy's like, I broke my hand. I have an x-ray, want to see it? Like, my shoulder's broken. It's like every time this guy fights, he has a mysterious injury. It's just, why wait?
Do you agree with Strickland here? As we're on the topic of Khamzat, it looks like Dricus du Plessis still wants that rematch. He said Khamzat knows if he approached that fight any other way, it would end badly for him. Here's what DDP had to say during an interview with Fight Forecast on their YouTube channel.
Fighting Khamzat again is, of course, what I'm after. Expecting any surprises? No. There's not going to be any surprises. I mean, that is the way he's going to fight, and if he tries anything different, it will be a terrible night. And we all know that, but he did what he had to win that belt. We can't hate on him for that. No, he did what he needed to do. It's the rules of the game, and he did it. So saying that, it's not fair, it is fair. He did what he had to do. Not how I would win my belt or would like to, but that's what he did. And now it's my responsibility to go and fix that, to stop him from doing that again and get him to fight my fight.
As for Khamzat's next fight, we're still not sure who the UFC will pair him up with, but everything is pointing to Nasruddin Imavov, and definitely it looks like Khamzat is gearing up for a return soon because he's been spotted training with Khalil Rountree Jr. He was also seen sparring against current UFC middleweight Baisangur Sirsaikayev. Dana White releases multiple UFC fighters. Yesterday, we unfortunately weren't able to upload, and a lot has happened since then. Like we said 2 days ago, ever since the Paramount deal, the UFC has been cutting fighters, and over the last 48 hours, we've had some big names released from the roster. We'll kick things off with the latest one. According to sources, Kamaru Usman's brother, Muhammad Usman, has been released. Now, if you keep up with the channel, you'll remember Muhammad recently tested positive for PEDs and received a 30-month suspension, which would have made him eligible to return sometime in 2028. With a suspension that long, and with him being 36 years old, it looks like the UFC decided to move on. The promotion has been on a no BS policy lately. As for Usman's brother, he ended his run in the UFC by going 4-2 in the heavyweight division. However, he wasn't the only heavyweight that was cut. Next, we'll move on to Jailton Almeida getting dropped as well. We recently reported that following his not-so-impressive performance last weekend, Jailton Almeida's manager said on a podcast he was planning to move back down to the light heavyweight division. Well, it looks like the UFC wasn't interested in seeing Almeida at 205 because they've now released him, with the news first reported by Lerta Viana. For those that didn't know, Almeida was ranked number 8 at heavyweight, so maybe that planned move down played a part in the decision. It was also revealed after the news that Almeida had 1 fight left on his contract before last weekend, and the UFC decided to re-sign before the fight even played out. Nate Diaz apologizes to Charles Oliveira. With all these fighters getting dropped from the roster, it looks like one big name is hinting at a comeback. Yesterday, Nate Diaz teased fans on X, writing, "Let's not act like I didn't start a whole division bringing value to all these guys claiming they're it. I gave opportunity and put notice on the dopest fights. I got unfinished business, and I plan on going and taking what's mine ASAP. First to ever start a division, and the dopest one at that. You're welcome. I'll see you soon. I'm coming." Then a clip from an interview 3 days ago started spreading on social media. While speaking with Clocked and Loaded on YouTube, Diaz was asked to predict the UFC 326 fight between Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway, and he said this: "I like Max. Yeah, I'll slap the out of the other one, Charles Oliveira. That was rude what I said, but I'll him up. But somehow, a lot of people online thought Diaz was saying he'd slap Max Holloway, which didn't really make sense. It got to the point where Nate had to clarify his comments, and he ended up apologizing to Oliveira for making those comments. I didn't say I'd slap Max Holloway. I said that about Oliveira, but I shouldn't have said that either. It was rude. I was up. If we were fighting in a cage match, I might attempt it, but that was rude. I shouldn't have said that. My bad, bruz. All respect though. And in that same clocked and loaded interview, Diaz also said he'd be interested in fighting on the UFC White House card. Would you rather see some OGs on that White House card over the newer names? Let us know what you're thinking in the comments. Sean O'Malley calls for Petr Yan fight at the White House again. Another day and another call out for Petr Yan from Sean O'Malley. O'Malley's been endlessly calling for a title fight against Petr at the White House. This is probably his 10th time doing so in the last few weeks. But nonetheless, in a new Q&A with fans, Sean was reading comments when someone asked him who he's fighting next other than Petr. And he took this time to call out Petr again.
Sugar a bum, whip it out. Sugar flash us, bro. Yo, brother, who you fighting other than Pickles? Who you guys want to watch more? Me, Umar, me versus Corey, or me versus Petr? I'm ready to fight Yan. Me versus Yan at the White House. Like, what the else are you gonna do? What the else is there to do? I hope you knock out Yan. I will. Sugar versus Petr with co-main event. That's what I'm talking about, boy. We need more activity. Chill. Sugar for president. I was thinking about it. Sugar Epstein. I don't even know what that means. Do you think Daddy Dan's on the file? I don't think. Do you still feel like you're in your prime? I sure do, man. I sure do. The time is now, man. Looking mighty cute today, Sugar. Sam versus Ilia. I tried fighting Ilia, man. He got scared, ran to 55. You guys saw that.
If you're Sean, of course a fight against Umar Nurmagomedov or Corey Sandhagen doesn't make as much sense as a fight to possibly reclaim the belt. But the biggest question is, does Sean deserve to fight for another title? Does beating Song Yadong after losing twice to Merab grant him a title shot? Of course, we can't put anything behind us. The UFC makes exceptions all the time for fighters they advocate for, and O'Malley is known to have Dana White treatment. After all, the UFC already lacks American talent, and there are only a few in the UFC even worthy of fighting at the White House, and O'Malley is one of them. So if the UFC does want this White House event to be full of American fighters, then we might just see O'Malley on that card. Now, whether they give him an instant title shot against Petr Yan is up in the air, but given how much Sean is pressing for a fight at the White House, I think we end up seeing him somewhere on the card. UFC updates. Now, let's get into some updates happening in the UFC. We'll kick things off with Alex Pereira hinting at a move to heavyweight. Over the past couple of weeks, Pereira has been constantly teasing a move to heavyweight, and well, yesterday, he hinted at it again. He posted on Instagram writing 1, 2, 3 and go, hinting that he's gonna fight for the third belt and possibly retiring after. Next, let's move on to an update on a fighter's injury during UFC 325. For those of you that watched our UFC 325 reaction video, you'll remember that we reported Torrez Finney tearing his ACL and both meniscus in his knee 15 seconds into his fight against Jacob Malkoun. Well, yesterday we got an update on Finney. He released a statement on X revealing he had surgery. He wrote, "Thank God, he's built me to overcome every obstacle I've faced, and that will be the story once again. I tore my ACL and both my meniscus within my knee. Got me into surgery the next day. He said it's insane I was able to fight tearing that 15 seconds into the fight. Islam Makhachev made a young fan's day when he gave him a signed hat with a cup." Here's the clip.
Strong arm makes it wasn't. Yes? Straight on eBay. Straight on eBay. There you go. I'm telling you, straight on eBay. Good work, winning.
Now let's move on to a new fight being added to UFC Vegas 114 on March 14th. UFC fighter Jose Delgado teased a fight announcement the other day on IG, writing, "Check in with me at 9 p.m. Arizona time to find out my next opponent." Well, during his IG live, Delgado revealed that he'll be fighting Andre Fili. For those that don't remember, Delgado is a Dana White's Contender Series winner from August 2024 and has fought 3 times in the UFC since. He's currently 2-1 in the promotion, coming off a unanimous decision loss to Nathaniel Wood in October at UFC 321. It's also worth noting he missed weight for that fight, so it ended up being contested at a catch weight of 147 pounds. As for Fili, the UFC vet is coming off a win over Christian Rodriguez back in August. He's currently 13-11 with 1 no contest. Next, let's move on to a fight happening 2 weeks later on March 28th. According to sources, Terrence McKinney is going to fight Kyle Nelson. We last saw McKinney compete at UFC 323, where he was submitted by Chris Duncan via an anaconda choke in round 1. Overall, McKinney is currently 7-5 in the UFC. As for Kyle Nelson, we only saw him compete once in 2025 when he picked up a decision win over Matt Frivola in October. Nelson is currently 5-5 with 1 draw. How do you see this one playing out? Let us know in the comments below. Next, we've got 2 fights reportedly added for April 4th. According to Leo Walker Gimenez, Tofik Musayev is set to take on Samuel Sanchez at UFC Vegas 115. Musayev signed with the UFC in 2025 and has only fought once so far, losing to Miktabek Orobai via Kimura. As for Sanchez, he'll be making his UFC debut after earning a contract on the Contender Series back in September. He holds a pro MMA record of 11-1, and this matchup is scheduled to take place at lightweight. The other fight reportedly added for April 4th is Robert Ruschala taking on Jose Delano. Ruschala is still pretty new to the UFC. He's only fought once so far, losing a decision to William Gomez back in September. As for Delano, he'll be making his UFC debut after earning a contract back in August. He currently holds a pro MMA record of 16-3. And for those of you wondering, this matchup is set to take place at featherweight. And lastly, for the UFC updates, it looks like we have Dustin Poirier back in the gym and training at American Top Team. UFC fighter Cody Durden posted the following video on social media.
Gamrot,
Let's go!
DP in the house.
Diamond forever! Yeah! Let's go!
Good one.
Good.
Let's go.
Islam Makhachev interested in Ilia Topuria fight. As Topuria has finally told everyone that he's back in training, it looks like Islam Makhachev is now open to the fight. Recently, Makhachev was interviewed by Telegraph. When asked about a potential fight with Ilia Topuria, he said he's interested, and if the UFC wants it, he's ready. He also mentioned he won't be competing before Ramadan, and he plans to start his training camp after Ramadan, which is March 19th. Not surprisingly, Makhachev said he'd be fine fighting at the UFC White House card. This is what he had to say.
There has been a lot of talk about the potential fight between you and Ilia Topuria. How do you look at that situation?
Yeah, I like this idea. If UFC want, I know a lot of MMA fans want this fight. I'm ready.
What about fight in White House in Washington? Do you thinking about that?
Yeah, also it's one of the arena where I'm gonna fight next, and we have the Ramadan month when I'm not gonna training 1 month, and after that I will slowly beginning my training camp, and I will be ready White House or as other dates. I will be ready.
As of right now, all signs are pointing to Justin Gaethje facing Ilia Topuria, but Gaethje has said he's waiting on the winner of Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira, and that there's also a chance that Topuria moves up. So far, we haven't heard anything like that from Topuria's side. However, Topuria's striking coach, Javi Clement, recently spoke with Alvaro Colmenero and had a warning for Gaethje. Clement believes that Topuria stops him early. Justin Gaethje will come forward, and I'm sure he'll pay for it dearly. Ilia will knock him out. Speaking of Topuria, Shara Magomedov recently appeared in a Russian interview, and he questioned the level of Topuria's opponents. Metal MMA Plus, a Russian MMA YouTuber, shared a quote from Shara suggesting Topuria had an easier path by beating big names when they weren't at their best. His words, not ours. He's a good fighter on his own, but if you look at how he got the belt, there were 4 or 5 fights against questionable opponents, and when he fought really serious fighters, they were already worn out. Charles Oliveira was worn out, I think. Max Holloway was a tough opponent, but he's not the same as before, and he's taken a lot of damage in his career and kind of slowed down. Alexander Volkanovski was also not at the same level he used to be. What do you make of Shara's comments about Topuria's path? Let us know in the comments below. Dana White forcing Tom Aspinall to vacate title? Reports came out last night that Tom Aspinall is being forced to vacate his heavyweight title by the UFC. Ruben Carter, who is known widely in the MMA community for spreading fake reports, posted it, saying that the UFC asked Tom to vacate his title after his surgery, to which Tom said that he would only if the UFC releases him. Ruben posted writing, "From my understanding, Tom Aspinall has not only vacated his title, but he has also been exiled from the UFC roster by mutual agreement. The UFC wanted him to vacate, and he said he will, but only if they release him from the contract so he can go and box. Make sure you bookmark this tweet and return when I'm proven right by Baldy." Josh Thompson posted a video reacting to the news and said this.
The reports are out that the UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. And he said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total show right now. And it's been a show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, you know, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, you know, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones debacle, I guess you would call it. Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, if he is gone, John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight division was the strongest it had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are carrying the sport of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
The MMA community roasted Josh for believing Ruben's post, and many people think that the UFC, at its current roster, wouldn't want to give up Aspinall for an open title considering there aren't any big names who could even take his spot. Here's what the MMA community had to say. Haven't seen a single report of this as Josh Thompson suggests. Maybe he's heard a salacious rumor, but there's no report out there saying this. Josh, my man, that guy ain't a reliable source. First off, the source I've seen on them asking Tom to vacate is Ruben Carter, and that dude invents story after story. He's been called out so many times for it. He actually posted 3 official fight announcements for Paddy Pimblett the same week, all fake. Well, now this morning, Tom Aspinall's team shut down the fake UFC rumor. Journalist Peter Carroll, who was actually there with Tom when he got surgery a few days ago, confirmed on social media that the news is not true. Peter posted on Twitter responding to Ruben's post by writing, "This is not true. No one has contacted Tom Aspinall or his team about vacating his title or being exiled from the roster. Seems like that would be important in terms of a mutual agreement. So it looks like all of these worries are for nothing, as it wouldn't make any sense for the UFC to let go of Tom with 2 fights still left on his contract. What do you think of the situation? Let us know in the comments below."
And that'll wrap up our video today. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss a video. We'll see you all tomorrow.